Welcome everyone to the Conquer Your Cravings Masterclass. We just waiting for a few more people to hop on. But as you join, make sure that you are comfortable, you have a pen and paper, and just kind of in a space where you will not be distracted. I do have some notes that I will put up in the next few moments, just some visual aids and some slides. But I thought I would just say hello. And yeah, I'm so glad for everyone here that's joining me live today. Welcome. I know there's a few people who said, I'd love to come, but I'm sleeping. It's midnight for me. So I like to accommodate for those as well. So excited about that. So what I'm going to do is let's get the show on the road, and I am going to share my screen, but I first just need to go and make sure that I can find my screen. Yep. And make sure that it's in the right format. Cool. Alrighty. Let's just, no, it's not that one. Okay, I can see it over there. Do you just love it when tech kind of just plays with you? There we go. I found it. I found the screen. Okay, now, all right. So if you can just give me a quick little emoji, or at the bottom of your Zoom, there's a little hand up, there's a little emojis that you can use. So just pop a little emoji in the comments to let me know that you can see, or pop in the chat that you can see my presentation here. Let's just make sure that everyone can see me. Can you hear me? Beautiful. All righty. So welcome everyone. Now I'm formally welcoming everyone to the Conquer Your Cravings Masterclass. I'd love to know if you are here live. I'm just going to open the chat. What is the last thing you ate today? I actually, I had some lunch earlier, but the last thing I actually had was, I was in between a client call and also just getting ready for today. So I had a few carrot sticks. So that's what I just had. It's, I know it's not going to be filling. So after this, I will be having another meal. Okay, cool. Peanut butter, love peanut butter. Strawberries and whipped cream. Yum, Lindsay. Lindsay it's late night for her. That sounds like such a beautiful way to end your evening. Goldfish crackers. Okay. Not eaten anything yet. It's too early for henna. Amazing. Okay. So I like to start asking these questions because I think there's a lot of fear and shame that we have nowadays about what we've eaten and, you know, whatever the case is. So, yeah, I'd like to make this interactive as well. So thank you for sharing. It's got nothing to do really with the presentation, just a little bit of fun. So if we haven't met yet, or you're watching this and you're like, who is this person talking about cravings? My name is Coombe-Heath. I am a binge and emotional eating recovery specialist. And this masterclass, I will show you how to start conquering your cravings. So thank you so much for being here today. I know some of you, it's really late. Some of you, it's like 6 a.m. in the morning. So super appreciate you showing up for this live. We know that a lot of people take more action when they are actually here live. And I'm hoping if you are watching the replay that you will actually just make sure that you give this your full attention, you know, to see this as a small little investment in your time. So I've been binge free for almost, geez, it's like my 4th year now. I've been coaching people in binge eating recovery for 3 years now, Yep. And no, almost, 3 years. That's right. I had to kind of just do the math again. I've helped over 150 women have a better relationship with food in their bodies. I've facilitated over 500 hours of coaching hours in the 3 years that I have been coaching. So I'm excited. I'm super excited and passionate about what I talk about. You know, a lot of my clients, and even if I'm just having a conversation with someone, they really feel comfortable with the way that I hold space for them so that they can be open and have the ability to share what's happening for them with regards to their food behaviors. And believe me, I've heard everything. So, you know, there's no shame in this workshop. There's no shame in our behaviors. I've been there. So I'm going to share with you just from my experience and also just the science behind why we get food cravings. And then we'll talk about some strategies on how to move through that. I'll help you to actually decode your cravings, which is really cool, because that's going to be such a great way for you to just empower yourself when you actually experience these cravings. So give me a hell yeah or an emoji in the chat if you are ready to conquer your cravings. I'm going to just open the little chat box over there. Yeah, hell yes, beautiful. Okay, amazing. All right, so usually I'd ask you to just switch off your phones and make sure that you have no distractions. But before we do that, I'd love for you to quickly check into Instagram if you've got an Instagram account. Or you can even add this to your story on Facebook if you wanted to. So just tag me in your story and show everyone that you are here learning about cravings this morning. My Instagram handle is at Wholesome Lifestyle Project. So if you're watching this on the replay, this counts for you as well. Snap a little selfie with yourself and in the workshop and post that up and tag me in it, please. I'd love to just be part of the experience. Okay, so I'll give you like just another minute or so to do the check-in. If you don't have an Instagram account, that's all good. You can just then safely put your phone away and get ready for the mastermind. Okay, so I really want you to be present for this class, for this masterclass. So please make sure that your phone is turned off, or if it's, you know, if you really can't turn it off, make sure that it's turned upside down so you don't get distracted with the little pings or the notifications that come around. I'd love for you to just immerse yourself in the training today. You know, there's one thing about attending something, but if you're not present for what's there, unfortunately, the brain will just do nothing with that information. And I'm all about giving you just tools and strategies so that you can actually move forward and use practically. And we have to be present for that. So thank you for being with me and doing that. I'm excited to be here. All right, so in this masterclass, I will give you some tools and strategies to help you understand your cravings better. And we'll talk about what causes cravings. And I'm also going to talk about the myths about cravings, just so you kind of get an idea of what causes cravings. There are two main things that cause cravings, and we'll go through that just so you can understand that better. And willpower, we'll talk about why willpower won't work when it comes to cravings and why that is. And maybe you have been feeling for a very long time that you just suck at this willpower thing. But maybe once I explain that a little bit better, you'll see, okay, this actually has nothing to do with willpower, more just with my body and working with my body in a better way. All right. We'll also talk about how to decode your cravings. So I'm going to go through what your cravings typically mean so that you kind of have a little guide or a cheat sheet of how how to manage those. Okay. And then what we'll talk about is my 3-step formula to stop unhealthy cravings. And that's based on the programs and the different modalities that I teach my clients. So yeah, super excited to have you share that part of the process. So now that you know where we're going, I wanted to just quickly introduce myself. I know I mentioned my name earlier and kind of what I do, but I am more of a holistic food and body image coach. I am a dog mom, also a yoga teacher, and I need to just actually, I've been binge free now for over three and a half years. In November it will be 4. So I've been there. I understand the journey, and I wanted to share just a small little story with you with regards to my recovery. I love sharing this because it helps people to understand that there is a way for people to heal. And in sharing my story, hopefully you can see your story. Maybe you don't binge eat, but maybe you just feel like you are out of control with food, or certain times of the day you feel like you overeat. So just kind of resonate with whatever resonates with you. Okay, so it's about 3 years ago, on a Thursday night. I remember this really, really clearly. I was sitting, I've just seriously had the biggest binge. It was just one of those days, and a lot of my clients understand this, where you kind of just go from one shop to the next, buying binge food, finishing it, eating more. I got home, ate all my binge food that I had brought from Macca's, because I kind of went, oh, fuck it. Well, I've already had all this binge food. I might as well have Macca's. I hardly ever eat Macca's. So it was just one of those kind of experiences. And I then ended up making, clearing out almost my whole pantry, even making up the weirdest recipes. My binge just wouldn't stop. And I was just so emotional about that. I sat there, I felt uncomfortable, I felt sick to my stomach from all what I ate. So much guilt and shame. I was actually I burst into tears. I was holding my dog Kaiser, and I said to him, I cannot continue like this. I need to find a different way. This is not healthy, and I just can't anymore. Okay, so, and before this moment, I've been to some professionals. I've seen a psychologist who told me that I needed to just manage my emotions better. I saw a dietitian who told me I just needed to be more disciplined on my eating plan. I saw a macros coach at some point, and she's like, well, just stick it out and just build up your willpower. And I did all those things, and nothing really worked for me. I'm not saying that therapy and dietitians won't work for you, but that was just my experience at the time. They've come a long way. I need to just preface that. I'm not trying to bash the health industry at all, but there is a lot more education now on especially binge eating and orthorexia, which is what I struggled with. So I've been in this binge guilt cycle for over 13 years by this point, and I just struggled with just this most love-hate relationship with food. I absolutely hated my body, and I just couldn't deal with my emotional eatings. My cravings were always through the roof. I could literally see food floating around, I daydream about pastries. Just if you can relate to this story, just pop a little comment or a little emoji in the chat box for me. So I just feel like you kind of know, okay, yeah, I understand that, or I can relate to maybe something she said. Okay. All right. I felt like there was just no one there to help me. I felt ashamed, and I didn't want to share my story at all. Right. I I couldn't understand. There was this mismatch between me having a successful career. I had the most amazing husband. I, had supportive friends. I had like a really rich and amazing life, but I just couldn't get my, shit together when it came to food. And I kept just losing that control. And I couldn't understand. It just didn't make sense to me, right? And so this particular Thursday, I just cried and cried until I was raw. Like it was just one of those real raw moments where it's just tears and, the weirdest faces and so many nasty words and conversations about myself. And yep, I just felt hopeless. And in that moment, I just knew something had to change. And in that moment, I started to look and be open to the idea of getting help, which is a massive, like if that's you right now and you're just even open to the idea, that's a really, really great, that's a really, really great like space to be in. So funny enough, I was studying my health coaching, or I've actually finished my health coaching course. I was teaching yoga. And through that practice, I actually found a coach who specialized in disordered eating patterns. I listened to some of her talks and I was ticking all the boxes, everything she explained. I'm like, yeah, I do that, I do that, I do that. And she actually helped me through my recovery, and we're still friends. It's just such a coaching relationship is amazing, but it always or very often turns into amazing friendships as well. So I made an appointment with her, and that's pretty much where my relationship with food started turning around. I was able to stop binge eating within I would say about 3 months. And I kept working with this coach because of more my body image issues. So we probably worked together for a good year, if not longer, because I knew that my body image stuff was probably some of the stuff that was causing, that was one of my wounds, was my body image issues. So through this journey, I just realize that no one should ever have to have that kind of relationship with food. No one should ever have to have the guilt and the shame, or just feel down about your body and what it looks like. But unfortunately we live in this culture and this society, also very much influenced by the diet industry, telling us we need to look a certain way to be acceptable, right? I mean, I grew up with the magazines at eye level, where the woman was, she's standing in her bikini, and the caption would be, or the heading would be, I've lost 15 kilos and I've never been happier. So I've started associated from like very young age that if I lose weight, I will have that happiness that all these ladies had on the magazines. And now it's just obviously been accentuated with where the world's going. So as human beings, I really feel that life is not just about food and obsession with our bodies and, feeling powerless with food. It's about so much more. We have such a beautiful gift that is our body, and we have a beautiful gift that is our life. And that is why I do what I do now, because I've been on the one side and I'm on the other side now. And that's why I just love facilitating workshops like these, because I just love having people see the aha moments. So, okay, now that I've stopped just giving you a background about me, let's get into the content. Okay, so what are cravings? I'm going to just give you the textbook definition of cravings. It's a powerful desire for something. So, for example, I'm craving a chocolate. it can feel uncontrollable, right? Just let me know if you can agree with this definition. Every person experiences cravings differently, and we've all seen that. Some people have the weirdest cravings, and a lot of my friends, when especially during pregnancy, they would have the weirdest things they would crave. And people might feel like they can't satisfy their hunger until they get a particular food. And we'll talk about that today as well. So I wanted to just know if you, I'm going to go back, if you can agree with these statements, or if you've had agreement with these statements in the past. Okay. I'm not saying that I 100% agree with these at the moment, but amazing. Fantastic. All right. So they feel true to most parts. Okay, fantastic. All right. So let's talk about some of the myths about cravings. And I love talking about this because a lot of people are like, what? I've just like, it's just a new way, new point of view when it comes to cravings. So one of the biggest myths out there is if you crave sugar, you are actually addicted to sugar. And I wanted to kind of bust that myth. I'm going to give you some beautiful ways to decode your sugar cravings a bit later. So craving sugar does not mean that you are addicted. There is absolutely no scientific proof that sugar is actually addictive. So yes, we can feel powerless with sugar, but that is not because of sugar itself. It's because of the relationship with sugar. Okay, so we'll get more into this as we move along as well. Feeling hungry means that you are thirsty. And I just wanted to bust that myth straight away as well. Thirst and hunger are two different things. All right. They're two different things. And so if you're feeling hungry, you are hungry. Don't go and suppress your hunger by drinking water because that is just going to escalate your cravings. All right. If you're feeling thirsty, you will feel thirsty. Feeling thirsty is mostly felt in the mouth. Hunger is more felt in the belly. All right. If it's physical hunger, you'll feel it in the stomach, or you'll feel low in energy. Whereas thirst is thirst. We all know what thirsty feels like, right? That's saliva, a sense of dryness. So we can't confuse the two. Okay. They're not the same. So like, already, if you start just adhering to this, you'll see that your cravings might start lessening if you actually eat when you're hungry. Okay. Managing cravings is about willpower. I'm going to talk about willpower a little bit now, but also in the next slide, I'll show you actually a nice diagram about willpower. Okay. So cravings is a way for our bodies to communicate that we need something. And that could be physiological, emotional, or maybe even dealing with pain, whatever the case is. So we have a craving. It's part of the body's survival mechanism. If the body didn't shoot us cravings when we were hungry, we might forget to eat and we might actually perish. Or we won't function properly. And if we can't function properly, we can't be on high alert, and we might, get distracted and step in front of moving traffic or whatever the case is. So that's part of our body's physical built-in survival mechanisms. So cravings will always be there. Willpower, on the other hand, is exercising your will over something. So that's amazing when you are trying to maybe build a study habit, right? Because you can exercise your will to study every day at a certain time, or you can exercise your will to exercise maybe at a certain time, but you will never be able to exercise your will over an automatic response from your body. Okay, it's a survival mechanism, and if we had to exercise willpower over our breath, we might forget to breathe and also perish, right? So it doesn't make sense. The body has certain things that are automatic, they happen all the time, and it will not let anything interfere with that, because that means that the body is compromised, right? The health of the body is compromised. So another myth is that we should be able to control our cravings. And I see that a lot. We have so many people talking about, well, let's cut out sugar and then you'll be able to control the cravings. Unfortunately, I'll tell you why that doesn't work. And I'll tell you why you actually binge on sugar when you do actually have sugar again, in the next few slides as well. Okay, so we can't control our cravings. It's, like I already said, it's an automatic communication system from our bodies, right? Okay, so a little fact about food cravings. I kind of looked in to get some research, and in the past year, there was a study done with I can't remember where I found the study, but 70% of men and 100% of women said that they have experienced cravings. Now, cravings, another study has shown that more than 90% of people experienced cravings. And I would actually like to challenge that and say, I would love to challenge that 10% and the 30% of men that said they've never experienced cravings, because as I already mentioned, a craving is a physical response telling us what the body needs. They might not feel overpowered by cravings. That's a different thing, but they definitely have experienced cravings. Okay, so you'll never be able to stop cravings, because that's the way your body communicates with you. Another thing I wanted to mention, if 100% of or 90% of people, if we even go with this statistic, and we think about how many billions of people there are in the world, if 90% of those people are experiencing cravings, then that means that there's nothing wrong with you for experiencing cravings. The reason we make such a big deal is because we give meaning to the fact that we have cravings. And we give meaning to the fact that we give into the cravings. And I'll talk to you a little bit later about why we give into the cravings. It's not the craving itself. The craving can't make us do anything. All right. So hopefully there's been a bit of a mindset shift when it comes to cravings and what they are. We will go deeper into this. I want to give you as much kind of information and food for thought as I can on this. So let me just know in the chat if with an emoji, if you're with me, let me know that you are still here. I'm just going to have a sip of water while I just double check that everyone is doing all good. Hello, beautiful. Hi, Yvonne. So good to see you here. Amazing. Thank you, Karen. Fantastic. All right. So I know it's really late for Lindsay, so if we don't hear from her, it's maybe because she's napping. And that's okay. She told me beforehand. All right. So I promised that I would tell you why we really have cravings, and we've already kind of touched on one of the reasons why we have cravings. Yes, beautiful. You weren't too late, Yvonne. You didn't miss much. So don't stress about that. Okay. So the first reason why you have cravings is not because of food. It's not because sugar is tempting you. It's not because carbohydrates is delicious. It's not because the food industry is tricking us with making food taste more palatable. Yes, of course, all that stuff is absolutely correct. They do, they try and make food really tasty, which is amazing. But that's not the reason why we have cravings. The reason why we have cravings is because they are a physiological response to something being out of alignment. So physical, emotional, and mental. We'll go through some craving triggers a bit later as well, so you have an idea of what that is. All right, so something is out of alignment. It's not a bad thing. Think about it. When you are hungry, you might start craving a bit of sugar, or you might think of some carbohydrates, because our bodies know that those types of foods are filling and they will keep us going. So that's why you might be craving those. It's not like all of a sudden, it's probably because you are hungry. We also have emotional attachments to food. And this is a lot of where my work comes in, is to kind of separate that emotional attachment that we have to food. One of my clients actually mentioned the other day that she kind of came to the realization through our work together in one of our sessions that emotions and chocolates are not married together, but in her mind, and through her behaviors, she has wound them so tightly together that they are associated with each other. Okay. We also have mental cravings. So a lot of my clients experience food thoughts. And again, that is more because of a physiological response to hunger, and not necessarily just the brain being obsessive with food. Okay. The second reason why you have cravings is because of a deprivation mindset. So our brains, this part of the brain that kind of stimulates cravings and, triggers cravings, is part of the survival part of the brain, the hypothalamus, that, it manages your breathing, it manages your metabolism, it manages your hunger cues, it does all those stuff that's automatic, and we don't even have to think about stuff, right? It manages digestion, body temperature. Can you imagine having to remember to change your body temperature when it gets cold? Like, that would just be crazy. So that part of the brain, that's what it does, right? Now, food is obviously there is a joyful experience to food, and there's certain emotional responses that we get to food, and that's amazing, because food gives us a dopamine hit or endorphin hit when we have it, just depending on if you're feeling rebellious eating that food, or bad for eating that little afternoon chocky. You will have one of those kind of hormonal responses. Now, when you deprive yourself of all the joy that food brings you, unfortunately, that creates a deprivation mindset. And we'll talk a little bit more about deprivation mindset in a second, or in a few slides. Okay, so these are the only two reasons why we have cravings. So it's not the sugar, it's not any other things. So I wanted for us to just separate the food and the craving. It's not food's fault that we have cravings. Okay, so let's talk about the different physiological responses to cravings. So I've broken this down a little bit into just external responses, and then also internal built-in reasons for cravings. Okay, so the first one we'll talk about is the external reasons for cravings. So visual cues, seeing something delicious or walking past that McDonald's ad, is a really great example of a visual cue that might start bringing in cravings, especially if you're hungry, right? Because you might be hungry, and this is why often when we're in the shops and we're hungry and we see all this amazing food, that's when the cravings go up. And that's often where people feel, well, I just can't control myself when I go shopping. Right? It's because of the visual cues we see. We see those beautiful cakes and pastries, and the body knows that that particular cake and pastry is going to, first of all, give us some pleasure. It's going to taste good, but it's also a high energy food, which is what the body needs. Especially if you've been hungry for quite a while. We have environmental toxins. So unfortunately, we have a lot of pollutants in the air. There's chemicals in our households. There's certain pesticides and stuff in our additives in our food. And unfortunately, that can cause more of a hormonal imbalance, or just the body trying to process these toxins, which means the body's working really hard to get rid of these toxins, which means it needs more energy. See, we're going back to the reason the body is wanting food is because it needs the energy to deal with these toxins. Okay. Unfortunately, most of these toxins we can't do anything about. You know, you can eat organic, but it doesn't stop you from inhaling the stuff that's in the atmosphere. So that is a good reason why you have cravings. Food can also be I know I've talked about food and certain foods that we fear, like sugar and carbohydrates, but the reason food creates cravings, it often happens when we have a disordered relationship or a love-hate relationship with food, creating that deprivation mindset. So if you have a huge deprivation mindset around food, you are going to experience food cravings more often, and especially the food that you are trying to deprive yourself of. Okay, so then we have internal factors, right? So hormones, these are chemical messengers in your body. They trigger different things. So the hormones I'm talking about here in particular is the hormones that work in the digestive space. Obviously, when we have, everything in our body is driven by hormones. We have these chemical messengers that happen. So yes, of course, if there's higher levels of estrogen in our bodies because of the time of where we are in our cycle, that is obviously going to create a hormonal imbalance. And that might be why the cravings might be there for you. But in particularly, I'm talking here about the hormones that help us with digestion. And these are cortisol, which is your stress hormone. So if you are really stressed, your body produces cortisol, and the cortisol is there to help stimulate the fight and flight response. Okay. Your body, the survival part of the brain, knows it needs energy to fight or flight, right? And it's much quicker, or it's much easier for the body to take in new energy than to actually go fetch stuff from the fat cells. Okay, fat cells have already been processed. So to get energy from the fat cells, the body has to work harder. Whereas if you just eat something when you're stressed, the body can have that energy immediately. Okay, so that's maybe why you have sweet cravings, especially when you're stressed. Okay, your insulin levels. All right, so cortisol affects your insulin levels. So when you have high stress, you might have a fluctuation in your insulin levels as well. Okay, then the two hormones that I mostly talk about in the binge eating recovery world is your hunger and fullness hormones. Okay, and these two hormones can create a massive, especially ghrelin, can create a massive chemical imbalance, and that will stimulate cravings. And I'll quickly touch on that. So ghrelin is our hunger hormone. It gets produced in the stomach, which makes sense because it's the chemical messenger that as the stomach empties out, it shoots a little message into the bloodstream, to the brain, to say, hey, stomach's almost empty. It's time to start looking for some more food. Okay. If we ignore that, if we let ourselves get extremely hungry, the ghrelin builds up in your system, right? So now we have an imbalance of ghrelin in your body. All right. When that happens, there's a new chemical response, part of the survival part of the brain, that will trigger a peptide called neuropeptide Y. You don't have to remember this, but it might just give you some understanding as to how hormonal imbalances work. This peptide is a survival peptide, and it will stimulate cravings for high carbohydrates and high sugar foods. Why? Because those are the foods that are going to give you the immediate energy and maybe some energy to store, because the body's like, well, I'm hungry. There's a lot of hunger here and I don't know when I'm going to eat again. So the body is always looking to survive. And if you let yourself go hungry for too long, it's going to look for those high energy foods. So hopefully that makes sense. Okay. Lastly, leptin. Leptin is our fullness hormone. So that hormone tells the body, hey, I am now full. Okay. What happens though is when these two hormones work in the opposite effect. So you can't have the one without the other. So if you have an excess of ghrelin in your system, you are not going to hear leptin, and that's when you become leptin resistant. So you don't hear that you're full. And that's often why people keep eating when physically their stomachs feel full, but they just keep going. And it's because the leptin hasn't kicked in. And I talk a lot about this when working with cravings and urges, to start restoring that. And once my clients work on that, it really starts minimizing the thoughts of food, the cravings, and also the actual binge episodes, as we describe it. Often also emotions. Okay, we'll talk a lot about the emotional bits in the decoding. So when you're feeling overwhelmed with emotions, you might crave foods that you have married together that associates with comfort, if that makes sense. Okay. We also have habits. So it might be that, for example, you every Friday, since when you were a child, every Friday you would go out for waffles with your parents. Okay. And that was a religious thing. You did it absolutely every single day for your whole life when you grew up. And now in the afternoons, like Friday afternoon especially, you might actually crave the waffles, because there was that lifelong, as you were growing up, or through all your conditioning years, you had that conditioning. It's Friday afternoon, we go for waffles. Okay, so that's how habit plays into that role. All right, next we're going to talk about the deprivation mindset. So before I move on, just wanted to check if there was any questions about the reasons or the physiological reasons for cravings. Feel free to ask questions. I'd love for you to feel complete with this training and walk out of here going, okay, yeah, I've got all this and I know where to go next. That gives me a good opportunity to also just rehydrate or just have some water. Okay. So let's talk about a deprivation mindset. So a deprivation mindset is a sense of insecurity of not having enough. And mostly this is caused by food rules. This is the rules we've put onto ourselves that says, this is good, this is bad. I shouldn't have this, I should have this. It starts creating a fear of food and a fear of calories. And unfortunately, when it comes to food, as I mentioned before, the body is built to survive, and food is one of those survival mechanisms. So if we start creating a sense of scarcity because we fear food, that is going to trigger survival instincts within us. Then you'll start thinking about food more. Okay. And that will cause us to have, that can cause us to actually have impulsive short-term decisions. Now, that makes 100% sense, right? If you are living in this deprivation mindset of scarcity, and maybe it's a scarcity for donut, for example, we'll use donut because that's just on the screen from the picture. When you have the donut, you are going to be impulsive about it, right? You might buy it so that no one sees you doing it, or you might eat it as quick as you can because you don't want to be caught with this donut, right? Eat it as quickly as you can so your logical part of the brain doesn't catch up with you. And that will give you that feeling of being possessed or out of control with food, right? Can anyone relate with feeling out of control with their cravings or with food in that sense? Give me a little smiley face or an emoji in the chat. Just let me know. Okay. Yep. All right. Stress and anxiety that's associated with scarcity will also trigger more cravings. And that will interfere with your willpower. So when we fear our cravings, our bodies will naturally go into stress mode. And I've kind of talked about stress creating cortisol spikes. And because of that cortisol spike, we are going to crave the high energy foods. And that's the foods that we are fearing, right? The carbs and the sugar. Why? Because body thinks we're in danger and we need fast energy to run from something from danger, right? Our bodies are still very primitive. I talked about this the other day on my podcast. Our bodies are pretty much like a what do you call it? Like old software in a computer, right? It's running on that really ancient software that we had, programming that we had the first time we actually built a computer. All right, let me just double check here. Someone had something in the okay, beautiful. Yes, Kazi, enjoy. Sending you so much love. Thank you for joining us. Okay, so our bodies think that we are in danger, and that old programming is still built on survival, right? And so sugar or those carby foods is going to give us something, a quick hit, an energy boost naturally. That's why you start craving sugar when you're stressed about food, and especially if you're stressed about not eating certain foods. We want to take away the stressful thoughts you have around food. Okay, and hopefully today, when we decode your cravings for you, you can maybe step back with a curious mind and go, okay, I'm having a craving. Let's go deeper into what that means for me, instead of, oh gosh, I am having a craving again. What is wrong with me? Why is this happening? Can you feel the stress happening and feeling in that? Okay, so because of the survival mechanism and because of this, we'll never be able to really have willpower when it comes to food because of this deprivation mindset. So hopefully that makes sense. So I, would love for you to kind of just let go of the fact that you don't have enough willpower when it comes to food, because it's not about having willpower. Willpower will not ever be able to trump survival. Okay, so I wanted to now go a little bit deeper into, if it's not cravings, we've talked a lot about cravings and the fact that cravings is not the issue. I wanted to now talk about what the actual issue is. Okay, so it's not food. It's not the actual craving that's the issue. The thing that usually sends these amazing drives and impulses to act on cravings is what we call an urge. Now, the definition of an urge is a strong desire or impulse to act. Okay, that's why a lot of my clients feel compelled or possessed. And that's how I came up with the food zombie brain, because a lot of people feel like they're actually not even present when this binge episode happens. Okay, it's this urge, and an impulse to act on the cravings. And this is what I help my clients with. I help them to start understanding their cravings better, but also the way they react to the cravings, this urge. Because if we can deal with our cravings as much as we can, and you can meditate and you can write out your journal prompts, if you don't know how to deal with the urge to actually act on the craving, unfortunately, you are gonna feel like you have no willpower. So the urge is an unconscious feeling, and it sits in the unconscious mind. So if you look at this little diagram, it's at the bottom of the ocean. This is might not look like it because it's purple, but this is actually an iceberg drawing. So our willpower and our healthy eating plans and our well intentions to not give in to cravings sits at the surface of on the surface. So it's just the tip of the iceberg that you see. But the things that drive the urge sits more in the subconscious and the unconscious levels of the brain. So your memories, your body shame, your beliefs about yourself, your low self-esteem, your emotional wounds, your traumas, your depression, your anxieties, your limiting beliefs. I think I've mentioned that before. That is what actually drives those unconscious urges to kind of, for you to actually act on your cravings. Okay. So one of my clients, Sam, she wanted me to help her get more willpower. Okay. She's like, I have an eating plan. I don't need help with that, but I actually just want you to help me with willpower. And she thought if she could just stick to that eating plan, she will lose the weight and then everything will be fine and her problems will disappear. And I obviously said, okay, yes, I kind of entertained that idea for her. But as we started working together, she started realizing that it wasn't the fact that she didn't have willpower. She had limiting beliefs about herself. She had emotions that were driving her behaviors. Her self-esteem was just knocked so badly because of an abusive relationship. And, because of that, it was just so much easier for her to just let the urge take over and let herself get lost in food. And so willpower will not help you with those unconscious things, right? We need to do the emotional work. We need to work on the beliefs and the thoughts about ourselves. So like any relationship, the relationship with food, we need to dig deeper. We need to go underneath the surface. And this is where the work gets scary, right? But it's worth it at the end of the day. So you don't need to manage cravings. I'm going to give you the most amazing tools to understand your cravings, but you need to watch out for the urge, because that's what's keeping you in a more like uncontrolled or feeling uncontrolled with food. Okay. So we need to make a mindset shift now when it comes to cravings itself, and start to see cravings as our friend. If we can start working with our cravings and not fight them, that's going to help support our bodies, and also start loosening that grip, that impulse that the urge has on us, especially if you start letting that deprivation, letting go of that deprivation. Okay. So cravings are an indication that there's an imbalance in the body. Our bodies don't have a voice, right? It's not like your body wakes up in the morning and goes, hey, Stell, how are you doing? I'm so tired. Did you know that I need a little bit of extra oats this morning? Because I know you're going for that run, and I'd just love a little bit of extra energy because I'm already feeling depleted. No. I wish that she would, though. That would be so, so amazing if she could talk to me and tell me what she needs, right? So she's going to talk to me in cravings. I'm going to crave the banana, or I'm going to crave, or I'm going to feel like eating oats in the morning. because that's the craving my body has created, just in communicating, hey, I'm low in energy, I need something that's going to support me in that way. Okay, so we need to start bringing in curiosity, and the minute we swap judgment for curiosity, that is when we take the stress out of the situation. And then we can start figuring out what our bodies needs. Now, this doesn't just happen overnight. This is not something that I was able to kind of, see the minute I started seeing my binge eating coach. It's not like that day one, I was able to figure this out. No, it was a process of learning and understanding and being curious and being open to being curious to that. Okay, so you need to give yourself time. And as we move through this, then understanding if your body is communicating with you, even if it's saying eat the donuts, we need to understand why it's there. And also allow yourself to have some donuts every now and then, especially if that's one of your comfort foods, or, the waffle example I gave earlier. Have the waffle every now and then. Don't ignore it. Okay. So when we look at it this way, the body's trying to communicate with us. There is actually no such thing as an unhealthy craving. Okay. So I know we talked about on the agenda, I mentioned we're going to cope with unhealthy cravings. And the way we're going to do that is by actually saying, well, cravings are not unhealthy. They're trying to tell us something. Okay. So if you are experiencing cravings, that means that your body is working properly. And that's why I wanted to challenge those 10% of people that said they've never had cravings, or those 30% of men who said that they never had cravings. Yes, maybe their cravings are not through the roof, because maybe their relationship with food is in such a healthy space that they hardly notice that it's there. Okay. It's again the deprivation mindset and that relationship with food that really starts to intensify cravings. Okay. All right. So we need to just have that awareness that the craving is not the issue. We need to stop worrying about the urge, which is the impulse to act on the urge. Okay. And as you start working with the tools I'm going to give you and the breakdown, that's going to really support you to start managing that urge. Okay, beautiful. All right, let me just see. Oh, this thing is a little bit slow. Okay, I don't know why it did that. All right, beautiful. Let me just see where this is. Okay, yes, I've already said all that. Okay, so I wanted to just share a little story about one of my amazing clients, Kim. She approached me because she no longer wanted food to be an emotional reward or punishment, and she wanted to stop wasting her time and energy and worrying about what she looked like and thinking about food all the time. Her yo-yo habits, she was always bouncing between either eating healthy or binge eating. There was no in between for her. It's almost that I think someone mentioned it in the chat earlier, that all or nothing perspective of food. Oh, okay, no, it was actually in the Wholesome Lifestyle Sisterhood. Yes, so we started working together, and I helped her to understand her body signals, her cravings and her urges, and she was able to start overcoming that deprivation mindset that we talked about. Like that in itself is a whole new way of thinking about food, right? And about our relationship with food. And initially, she I'm getting to the meat of the story here. She felt she couldn't trust herself with potato chips, and so she tried to avoid them as much as she could, but she always craved them. And she couldn't understand her relationship to cravings, and she's like, why do I crave these chips when I don't when I don't want to eat them. Okay. She's like, I don't want to eat them because if I start, I just can't stop. I go into food zombie mode, which is what we normally call it when you feel like, you know, your body is taken over and you have no control. And we kind of brainstormed in a session with her to understand her relationship to her cravings to chips. And we came up with a plan to manage those cravings. Now, what actually happened was her chip cravings was something that kind of came through during one of her pregnancies with one of her children. And it was connected to the emotion of just being exhausted. Her body needed the salts, you know, like obviously cravings for women who are pregnant, that's like a whole different story, right? And even in that, I tell my clients if they are pregnant to eat the foods that they crave, because it's their bodies needing some of that stuff. And if we allow, it's not going to get overboard. So during her pregnancy, like her body was going through all the stuff that it does, and she created this you know, like this habit of eating potato chips through the pregnancy. And unfortunately, she forgot about the fact that when she felt low in energy, potato chips would actually energize her. So we came up with an understanding of why that was there for her. And then we were able to start building tools around that so that she couldn't, so that she could actually feel more empowered when it came to chips. So 2 weeks later, after we've done this session, she, at our next session, she said she hardly had any cravings for chips anymore. And when she opened the bag, she had some, but when she was satisfied, she didn't eat the whole family size bag anymore. And it's because she gave herself that permission. Like, we worked a lot on giving herself the permission to eat the chips, especially when she is feeling depleted. Okay. And so, you know, Kim has just felt so empowered with managing her cravings. And she said to me, when you don't think about food and what you look like all the time, it's amazing what can happen. And it is amazing what happened to Kim. Like, you know, Kim took control back with food. She was able to understand her cravings. She had better digestion. She felt worthy of applying for a role that she thought she actually didn't have the real skills and everything. She felt worthy to apply for that anyway. She's like, I'm ready to learn and I will do that. And she actually stood up and became a leader in a mentoring role for young women in the corporate world. So I wanted to just share that story with you, because I wanted you to know that it's possible for you to start working with your cravings. And like one of my clients said to me the other day, she's like, oh, you know, Stel, if I can do this, then other people can do it too. And that's absolutely so true. So that's why I wanted to just share a little bit of a story about Kim and her potato chips craving. Who here craves potato chips? Let's just take a small break. I'm going to just pop open the chat. All right. I don't know why I'm so, Hannah says I used to. Okay, beautiful. All right, but maybe today, like as we go through the decoding, you might actually understand why that craving was there for you in the first place. All right, so now we're going to get more into the practical side of things. And so I'd love for you to just put down your pen and paper, and we're going to move into a bit of a visualization exercise. I find that we don't really learn in the logical side of the brain. We learn more in the visual side, right? Okay, so let's get comfortable. I'm just going to put up a nice little image here. All right. So if it's okay with you, I want to take you through a little visualization journey so that we can start seeing just where your cravings might show up actually in the body. Okay. So get comfortable. Put down anything that you had in your hands. Let's relax the shoulders and gently just close down your eyes. And I'd love for you to just inhale deeply. Let's take a nice refreshing breath. We've been doing a lot of thinking here and a lot of absorbing of information. So deep breath through the nose and then exhale through the mouth. And we'll do that again. Gently inhale deeply. Exhale all the air out. Make sure that you detox all the air out of your lungs. And one more inhale. And exhale all the tension. And gently now just release the breath. Allow the breath to flow naturally through your body. And here just start focusing more on this breathing, as if you almost standing outside of your body, just watching yourself breathe. There's nowhere else to be in this moment. So just let your body kind of get used to you breathing in this moment. Follow the ebb and flow of your chest and allow your body to soften as you observe your breath. Just allow the body to gently move through. And I'd like for you to just notice where you crave certain foods. We're going to mention certain foods and just notice where you maybe pick up a signal from the body, how it responds to the word. Sugar, savory or salty, chocolates, carbs. What stands out for you? Where do you feel this in your body? I'd like for you to put your hand on that area as you breathe. Is the craving emotional or visual? Or is it more of a habit? Are you actually hungry right now? For some of you might be. I know Hannah mentioned it's still very early for her, so she hasn't had breakfast. What are you feeling? So try and describe the feeling. Is it a tingling, a tightness, a fogginess, a bubbliness, a prickly, burning? Might feel grounded. Do you want fuel, comfort, entertainment, or indulgence? So what needs to be nourished right now? And gently just feel into that. And we'll slowly and gently just open your eyes. I'm going to pop up a chart here quick. So just depending on where you actually felt that energy, it might give you an idea of the emotion you're currently experiencing. So scientists have mapped out where we experience emotions. So maybe if you had an experience here of the craving the craving in your stomach, maybe that could mean happiness or love. It might mean anxiety, for example, if you look just at this chart. Maybe just identify what you are feeling. Okay. Alrighty. So we're gonna move on. This is the part where we will decode our cravings. And I see that my slide is doing a bit of a weird thing. Okay. So let me just quickly do this. All right. Tech issues, right? Amazing. Okay. So we're going to decode your cravings now. So what I wanted to just kind of make clear is that even though you have decoded your cravings, as I've prefaced before, if you don't know how to deal with your urges, you might still end up feeling like you've given in to them when you didn't want to. Okay, so let's if you wanted to take a photo of this as well as a nice little cheat sheet, I might actually take this screen and send this to everyone who's attended the masterclass so that you've got this. Okay, so sugar, when you crave sugar, it means that you are actually lacking joy and creativity in your life. And physically, you might be hungry. From an energetic perspective, your sacral chakra is out of balance. Okay, so that already gives you a lot of information of, well, okay, if I'm lacking joy, I am going to go and get some, if I've just eaten and I'm still craving sugar, which is that after dinner sugar rush or sugar cravings, ask yourself, where am I lacking joy or creativity? And now you have the information to go, okay, well, how can I create that? Is it, doing something creative after eating dinner, or doing something creative or joyous once a week, just to get that going? I mentioned before, sugar is a quick source of energy for your body when you're hungry. So if there's that hormonal imbalance of ghrelin, then it will indicate hunger. All right, chocolates. Craving chocolate means that you are looking for an endorphin rush. And this is normally what you get from hugs, for example, or physical touch. Physically, you might be feeling stressed and the body might be requiring some magnesium. Okay, so emotionally, you need a hug. Physically, you might actually just need to help your body de-stress. Also, maybe finding some sources of magnesium. The chakra out of balance for your chocolate craving is your heart chakra. Makes sense, right? If you like, chocolate is just such a beautiful, for me, especially, like, it just makes my heart happy. So it makes sense that there might be that imbalance. Okay, salty foods actually indicate anxiety. And also, there's this weird relationship between salt and dehydration. And how that works is your body knows that if you've eaten something salty through like experience, you would normally go and have some water. So it might be that when you crave salts, that your body is actually starting to dehydrate, and it could actually indicate dehydration. So if you are craving salt, check in. Am I actually thirsty? When last did I have some water? And then also just make sure that if you are hungry, that's the number one check. Am I hungry? Then go and eat. Okay. And the chakra out of balance for salty foods is your solar plexus. So that's the chakra just underneath or just above your belly button. All right. Carby foods usually means emotionally you are looking for comfort. And it makes sense, right? Because carbohydrate foods, they are very earthy. They, they are just comforting. There's like something just so grounding about a pasta dish, or like, potatoes or whatever the case is. So physically, you might be hungry again, like, or you might be needing some quick energy. So check in, when last did I eat? Or, did I eat enough? Like, we often think, oh yeah, I had a salad earlier, but was that actually sustainable? Right. And the chakra out of balance here is your carb, for carb cravings is your root chakra. All right. All right. So I wanted to take you through just my signature three-step formula to stop food cravings. And I've titled this To Stop Food Cravings, but we now know that you can't stop food cravings, right? And that no food craving is an unhealthy cravings. So the first, I have kind of just used the acronym RED here, R-E-D. So the first one is a positive relationship with food. We need to bring in a healthy, positive relationship with food through not fearing food, through feeding our bodies often, through just having trust with food, so that you can give yourself, like a real unconditional permission to eat foods, enjoy foods, experience the pleasure that some foods have. Okay. All right. Emotional intelligence is next. This is now that you kind of know, you've kind of got the idea of the emotional reasons for your cravings. Now it's like, and you saw the map of your body of the emotions. It's starting to nourish those emotions, acknowledge that they are there, so that you can cope with your emotions with kindness. And then the last one I called design your life. And this is just a way for you to design a life without sabotage, those yo-yo diet behaviors, having the freedom to actually indulge without being triggered and never go on a diet again. So if you start working with your cravings, you can start healing your relationship with food. You can then start also connecting with the emotional reasons why you eat. I normally call these wounds. And then you're able to, from that step, move into a space where you can actually have an amazing life with food in it and just having that balance. Okay. So that is my 3-step process. I wanted to just open, we're going to move into some questions soon, but I just quickly wanted to open up an invitation to you to, if this has been helpful for you and you want some help to work with your cravings, or you want some help to start building a better relationship with food, I wanted to invite you to an absolutely free, complimentary 20-minute food freedom planning session with me. And in the session, we will discover what's actually keeping you stuck. We'll look at the best ways to evolve your relationship with food so you can stop your binge eating or emotional eating or overeating, whatever's there for you. And we'll come up with a step-by-step way for you to, and a step-by-step plan for you to achieve this with your body. And in this, you can decide whether or not, if we are a good fit to take that further and you want me to help implement that strategy, then by all means, we can do that as well. So on this call, I will actually help you get really clear about what's keeping you stuck and provide you with the steps to move forward from getting unstuck. And the session is worth almost $250. So, make use of this. It's just so amazing. The people who have gone through this 20-minute session have just had so much. And I wanted to share just a few aha moments from those. So my client Corinne, she actually reprogrammed a 5-year lunchtime binge habit she had. And what we actually uncovered for Corinne was that her afternoon binges were an emotional comfort blanket for her. And it turned out Corinne actually, as a teenager, she turned to food in the afternoons because she didn't feel appreciated at school and from her parents or whatever the case is. She felt like the only thing she had was food, and the more food she had, she felt like there was that food appreciated her. If that makes sense. So her breakthrough was like, she was able to see that pattern, and she was able to actually break that habit of the lunches, because we worked through some tools and strategies for her to actually acknowledge some of that appreciation, which sometimes she was even oblivious to. People were appreciating her, but because of this belief that no one appreciates me, she didn't even see it. Okay. All right. Cindy, one of my clients, I just loved how she describes our sessions as peeling another layer of the onion. right? She realized how her brain is associated with emotions and chocolates. And she said that, this is what I was talking about earlier. She said that she felt like her brain actually married the two so closely together that there was no separation for her. And her biggest breakthrough was that she was able to break that connection. And she said, I'm just so excited because I have tools now to separate food from my emotions. We also had Jamie. Oh, something has happened that is cut off. Okay. All right. Jamie now has the skills to cope with her emotions and listen to herself without judgment. So Jamie, such a beautiful soul. She told me that she felt safe in just actually having an environment where she can actually talk about her food problems without judgment, and just have someone give her some action steps that she could actually follow that was practical. And I get that a lot from my clients, where they just feel like there is just a real space where they can actually offload their food shoes or food issues and just feel more comfortable without having that sense of being judged. Okay. Sharon, such a beautiful story. I don't want you to actually underestimate the power of 20 minutes, right? For Sharon, we actually unlocked a childhood trauma attached to eating donuts in just 20 minutes. Okay. So Sharon actually had a very, there was a lot of conflict in her household growing up. And so her parents, you know, there was just like not a lot of peace like that she felt. And but on a Saturday morning, her parents or her dad used to take the kids out for donuts. And for Sharon, that was an escape. It was like this, she just felt so much peace when she was having that donut, right? And so as she actually started feeling that peace away from the family environment in this donut shop, she started associating donuts with feeling peaceful. So she started craving donuts a lot, especially when she felt unsettled, or there was just just one of the things that really kind of kept her back. She just couldn't understand why it was there. And in one of our sessions, 20 minutes, we figured that out for her. All right. Last one of my clients, she wants to remain anonymous. She said to me, you can share just what my experience, but I don't want to be known because she is actually a high profile lawyer. But you know, her journey is so special. She had this real obsession with nut butter. She literally had to hide the peanut butter in the garage and like let her husband lock it away. Because if she opened the jar, she would finish it. Like that's just, she couldn't stop eating it. And in one short session, we actually discovered that the nut butter obsession was as a result of her anxieties, and the saltiness actually helped her calm down. So we talked about that with the decoding your cravings, that salt is actually an indication of anxiety. And so she actually felt so empowered when we built those tools to comfort her without the peanut butter and the nut butter. Okay, so just some examples of some of my clients and their experiences in short little sessions, and what is actually possible. So I'd love to invite you for that session. I actually realize that I did not pop the link. I don't have the link ready, but what I'm going to do is stop the share so we can open the floor for questions. No. Hang on. Way to go. Stop the share. All right. So I'd love for you to, we'll open the floor now for questions. So I'm going to stop the recording and I'll pop that link if you wanted to book that session with me in the comments for those who are live. If you're watching the recording, that booking link will be wherever the recording is. So thank you everyone for joining. I'm going to stop the recording